when I start talking about this show, it's going to sound crazy, but stick with me and watch the show. Hello, welcome to Just My Thoughts. I'm your host, Khaleel Ward. On this episode, I'll be talking about Mrs. Davis. It's a Peacock show. It's 8 episodes. They're about an hour each. The show is very hard to explain without spoiling stuff, but I'm not going to do that here. We're going to talk about the characters and then talk about their motivation, what they have to do. So, first, let's talk about Simone. Simone is a nun. She's not like a regular nun. She be going on like missions. She's not Tom Cruise or anything, but when we meet her, she's on like a mission. She gets these names and she has to go protect them most of the time. When we meet her, she's protecting this guy who's being conned. The guy doesn't know he's being conned, but she shows up and she's like, look, this, and this is fake. You're being conned. They want to take your money, etc. And we learn that someone is trying to get Simone's attention. This entity, call it that for now. The entity is communicating through other people to get Simone's attention. And Simone catches on to it like, oh, she sent you. I don't want to talk to her. Oh, she sent you. I don't want to talk to her. It gets to a point where the entity does something and it gets her attention and she goes to talk to the entity. And now the entity is known as Mrs. Davis. Mrs. Davis can use people as proxies. So she is an app, essentially, that you download on your phone and then you put in your headphones and she can talk to you. Simone doesn't want to become what they call a user, so she doesn't have the app, she doesn't have a phone, she's a nun. So she goes to people and she's like, can you proxy for Mrs. Davis? And I think it's really cool, like all the actors in this particular show, because they can talk as their regular selves, and then when they put the headphones in and they're acting like a proxy, their voice kind of changes and they talk in a different tone to let you know that Mrs. Davis is talking to Simone. So she gets Simone's attention and she lets her know, I need you to go on a quest. And we learn that she sends people on quests. Sometimes it's small, sometimes it's big. It could be something as simple as like, go here and pedal and do these things and you get your wings. What do the wings do? I don't know. But if you have your phone and you like highlight someone, you look at them through your camera, you'll see that they have wings and that they completed their quest for Mrs. Davis. And that's a good thing. Mrs. Davis is there to keep peace amongst the people and have no war and no famine. And people love Mrs. Davis. Simone doesn't trust her though. However, she's like, what's the quest? And Mrs. Davis is like, I need you to go find the Holy Grail. Yes, that Holy Grail. And I need you to destroy it. So Simone is like, this is ridiculous. What? And as she goes on her way, she runs into her ex-boyfriend. His name is Wiley. And Wiley is like, you can't trust her, but we have to do this mission. It's very important that we do this mission. And he has like a whole resistance team that's going to help her complete this mission. And she's like, all right, cool. Let me go talk to this guy. And this is when the story gets crazy. She has this ability to close her eyes. And when she closes her eyes, she ends up at this restaurant owned by, we learn it's her husband. Her husband's name is Jay. J is for Jesus. Yes, Jesus Christ. The nun is married to Jesus Christ himself. Yeah, I know. Anyway, Jesus gives her a name. He's the one who's been supplying her names for missions. And he gives her a name, and on the list it says Mrs. Davis. So Simone is supposed to take out Mrs. Davis, but she's also doing a quest for Mrs. Davis to find this Holy Grail. And Jesus is like kind of assisting her on the way. Stay with me. Episode 5 is a great episode because it gives you an incredible breakdown of everything that's going on. Because I know you have questions, and I had a lot of questions. We do get some flashbacks in a couple of episodes. We see Simone growing up, and we see how she became a nun and why she became a nun and what happened between her and Wiley. We get all that throughout the season. It's just a lot to take in terms of what I just told you. Watch the show though. It's a really good show. It's more comedy than like action. Like she's not a regular nun, but she's not out there like beating people up and stuff. There's cursing, R-rated stuff, but watch the show. It's played as a comedy for the most part. It is really well done. It's a good show. Everybody that shows up in it is really good. And you learn a lot about Mrs. Davis, why she was made, what's her purpose, what Simone is supposed to do, Jesus Christ, who the boss is. It's a lot of stuff that is said in this show. And then by the time it ends, you're like, it just works. And I was smiling and I was like, this is hard to talk about without, spoiling everything, but it's a fun, entertaining show. If you have Peacock, check out Mrs. Davis, 8 episodes. I don't think you'll be disappointed. But those are just my thoughts. If you watch the show, let me know what you thought about it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.